2, 1.
7 things you probably didn't know you need to know. I'm Jamie East, and this is the Smart 7.
Good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday, the 9th of November, and it's National Fried Chicken Sandwich Day. And a big happy birthday to Wendy Morton, Eric Dane, Scarface, and Finn Cole. Tuesday saw the US head to the polls for the midterm election, with every seat in Congress plus 35 Senate seats and governorships across the country up for grabs. It'll take some time for all the results to be counted, with mail-in ballots, early voting and long lines at polling stations across the country. In key states like Florida, Republican Senator Marco Rubio and Governor Ron DeSantis were both re-elected. Rubio was returned for a second term with a huge majority, leaving him in a prime position for a possible run as presidential candidate in 2024. Here he is at his victory speech.
Being an American is the defining principle of our nation, that all men are created equal. All men and all women are created equal with rights that come from God, not from your leaders, not from your government, and not from your laws.
Some early results have made history, with the Massachusetts Democrat Maura Healey the first lesbian to be elected as governor in the US, and Democrat Maxwell Frost elected as the first of the Gen Z generation to serve as members of Congress. Oh, and remember Sarah Huckabee Sanders? Well, President Trump's press secretary just got elected first female governor of Arkansas. Exit polls show it's going to be a very tight race, and while it's still too close to call the final results, President Biden was realistic about Democratic chances to retain control of legislature.
The Democrats win the House.
I think it's going to be tough, but I think we can. I think we'll win the Senate. I think the House is tougher.
And it certainly wasn't the night that Republicans were hoping for, according to Republican Senator Lindsey Graham.
Definitely not a Republican wave, that's for darn sure.
As COP27 continued in Egypt, Pakistan's Prime Minister warned his country's become a victim of something they had nothing to do with. Over 1,000 people died and millions of others had to leave their homes in devastating floods this summer in Sindh and Balochistan provinces. Addressing the conference, EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen warned the climate was changing faster than our capacity to adapt.
The global fossil fuel crisis must be a game changer. And my friends, let us not take the highway to hell. Let us earn the clean ticket to heaven. That is our responsibility.
Scotland's First Minister Nicola Sturgeon said we must listen to the next generation on climate change, as she welcomed a baton relay that arrived in Sharm el-Sheikh, having travelled nearly 5,000 miles from COP26 hosts Glasgow. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres hit out at the unfair practices being widely used to claim progress on climate action.
The problem is that the criteria and benchmarks for these net zero commitments have varying levels of rigor and loopholes wide enough to drive a diesel truck through. We must have zero tolerance for net zero greenwashing.
He seemed to be unsackable, although he's now had to resign 3 times. He's Sir Gavin Williamson, and on Tuesday night, following fresh complaints of bullying, he finally stepped down. He says he's intent on clearing his name and complying fully with the complaints process. The final straw appeared to be when former Deputy Chief Whip Anne Milton reported new incidents of Williamson's behaviour while Chief Whip in an interview with Channel 4 on Tuesday evening. She told of a time that an MP who was in financial difficulty was due to be given a cheque.
But I do remember him asking me to give the MP in question the cheque, and he waved it under my nose and said, "Make sure when you give him this cheque, he knows that I now own him."
Labour's shadow leader of the House of Commons, Tangan Debonair, says none of this reflects well on new Prime Minister Rishi Sunak.
Well, it's right that he's resigned, but I'm afraid it doesn't end here, because this is just another example of Rishi Sunak's weak leadership and poor judgment.
The Ukrainian president told COP27 there can be no effective environmental policy without peace. In a video message on Tuesday, Volodymyr Zelensky also acknowledged the destruction caused in his own country since the Russian invasion. Speaking of peace, Zelensky's declared his country is open to negotiations with Russia, despite discussions in the past leading to crazy responses, news and terrorist attacks. He said more than 50 Ukrainian settlements were hit by Russian missiles or rockets on Monday. And so, for peace talks to happen, specific demands must be met.
Once again, restoring territorial integrity, respecting UN statutes, paying off all damages caused by war, punishing each war criminal, and guarantees this won't happen again. These are absolutely clear conditions.
Still to come on the Smart 7, Sepp Blatter admits the World Cup final shouldn't have gone to Qatar and is goodbye to a carry-on legend. Right after this. Welcome back.
The choice of Qatar was a mistake. That's what former FIFA President Sepp Blatter has said about the venue for the 2022 World Cup finals, with just 11 days until they start. He was president of World Football's governing body when the controversial decision was made in 2010, although the 86-year-old says he voted for the United States. The Gulf state's been heavily criticised for its human rights record and for not recognising same-sex marriage or civil partnerships. And in an interview with a German public broadcaster, former Qatari footballer Khalid Salman says being gay is forbidden.
For the World Cup, you have to accept our rules here. This haram. It's a damage in the mind.
Khalid's not the best person to comment on the law.
Ryan Reynolds has been discussing his children, his love for Wrexham Football Club and of course his new festive film with Jimmy Fallon. The Deadpool star's making music and spreading Christmas cheer with Will Ferrell in Spirited, a funny spin on Charles Dickens' classic A Christmas Carol for Apple TV+. And on The Tonight Show, Reynolds, who says he got singing and dancing advice from Hugh Jackman, had some huge praise for his Elf co-star.
My entire life, I feel I've ached to work with Will Ferrell.
He's unbelievable.
I don't know that you find a comedic actor that has contributed more to the modern comedy lexicon than Will Ferrell. The hardest challenge of Spirited wasn't just the singing and dancing and all that other stuff. It was to not do an impression of Will Ferrell to Will Ferrell.
Leslie Phillips, who was perhaps best known to younger generations as the voice of the Sorting Hat in the Harry Potter franchise, has died at the ripe old age of 98. The veteran actor's agent says he passed away peacefully in his sleep on Monday. His career spanned 8 decades and he was also known for some pretty suggestive catchphrases in the Carry On films, including, right, say...
Are you ready?
Yes.
Hello. I don't know.
And the other one?
Yeah, I got stuck in the tube once doing that. I had the whole tube train getting me to do all my catchphrases. It was incredible, really.
This has been the Smart 7. Wherever you're listening, do us a favour and hit the follow button. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. Have a great day. Written, produced and published by Daft Doris.